Welcome back into another episode of our interview series with Dynasty Nerds over here on YouTube. We've had some really incredible guests so far. And this guy gets to give us a super unique perspective from somebody that actually played in the league. We always talk about stuff from a football perspective. And, I was fortunate enough to play a little bit of college, but it's a whole nother level when you're going to the league. And so we get to talk to somebody that knows what that experience is like and has had to cover some of these wide receivers. So Eric Crocker joins us today. Eric, how you doing tonight?
Oh, man, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
So introduce yourself, because I know there's a lot of people that know you, but I know that there's some that don't. Introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your playing career and then what you're doing now with Rise Athletics and the Crocker Report and anything else you have going on.
Yeah, Eric Crocker, I'm from Stockton, California, and I took a unique path. Like, you talk about like me getting to the NFL and all that, but I was somebody that went to junior college, out of high school. I struggled academically in high school, had to go to junior college route, dropped out because I struggled academically there, and I had a son at a young age. Then I was out of school and everything for 3 years. Didn't play again until I was 22 years old, went back to junior college at that age. Got a scholarship to a Division II school. And played those 2 years, then went to the Arena Football League, balled out as a rookie. And from there, I was able to, blessed enough to, sign with the Jets, and I was with the Jets for, 2013. Then after I played, a few more years of Arena Football League. And once I got done doing all that, it was really just, like my focus went to like, just figuring out like how I can help kids that maybe didn't, don't have, guidance or anything. And that was my biggest issue, not really having guidance, not having anyone to kind of talk to about the process of anything, not even thinking it was possible for me to go to college or anything. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff. So it's crazy because now like kids have all these different people helping them and all that. Like, but when I was coming up, we didn't really have that. So really, I've kind of devoted a lot of this part of my life to figuring out different ways to help kids. So like you said, I started Rise Athletics, where I work with, a bunch of kids, and, I've trained athletes, all ages, all levels. I mean, even up to, NFL guys. I've worked with a bunch of NFL guys as well. Like Trumaine Johnson, he's one that comes immediately to mind. But so I do that with Rise Athletics. And obviously you mentioned some of the other stuff I have going on, but crockreport.com, that's my passion. Like, just talking about draft prospects and really just talking football in general. So I talk it on there. I have my Patreon account, patreon.com/CrocTalk, where I break down prospects and like really put up, in-depth videos. And then also I have Croc Talk TV on YouTube. I started up the YouTube channel recently, a few weeks ago, and I'm like already around like 2,500 subscribers. So it's growing. It's growing pretty fast. I finally I reached the amount of hours you need to get monetized. So I think you have to get to like 4,000 watch hours. So I'm over 5,000 now. So did that in like a few weeks, which was good timing with the draft coming up and everything. And so my life is just football pretty much. It's just, I love football. I love talking football. I've been blessed to do a bunch of different things, even media side of things, being credentialed member of the 49ers media, like at games, training camp, all that type of stuff. So, which I never thought that would be possible. So yeah, I'm just all football pretty much.
Man, I love it. I love to hear it. We wanted to go to the NFL draft this year. Didn't work out because of some of the COVID stuff. But I was blessed enough to get to go to the Senior Bowl this past year and the Combine the year before that. And I'm much like you. I love football. Even when I was done playing, I just couldn't get away from it. And so here I am back, watching prospects and doing all the fantasy football stuff with Dynasty Nerds. So let's get into talking about some of these prospects here, because I want your take, especially because you playing defensive back, you have a really unique perspective on some of these wide receivers, because your whole life was, studying these offenses and studying these receivers and their traits and their abilities and what translated to guys being more difficult to cover and what made guys, an easy lockup. So let's start with the top three guys that were taken in the NFL draft. We have Jamar Chase, we have Jalen Waddle, we have Devonta Smith. So
very good. That's all different skill sets, and they all have different challenges. But go ahead. I like where this question is going.
All right. So tell me how you think these guys could win And where's a little bit of an area of concern? And if you, I don't know how much fantasy football you play, but what's the one guy that you would be the most willing to stake your reputation on and say, like, this guy has what it takes to win consistently?
Okay, so if I had to, my fantasy and all that stuff, just one guy, I'll start with that question.
Yeah.
The one guy where I'm like, okay, I have like the least amount of question marks with this guy, with how he wins and how consistent that can be at the next level, that would be Devontae Smith. Like that's who I would. Just because of
my guy. I'm with you. I love hearing this.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that question, his weight. The way I watch film, and I always try to tell people how I do, I don't pay attention to height, weight, any of that stuff, right? So a lot of times people will tell you, well, you have so many guys at this height and this weight, and if it's not this, then they're an outlier, and you get those type of things.
Sure. The analytical arguments.
If you go off of that, then you're going to miss the outlier, right? Like you're going to miss the outlier. So I really just go purely off of film and what does the film tell me? So when you look at Devontae Smith, he checks every single box. He's a legit vertical threat. We watch him just run by guys. Like, so he has the speed, possesses the type of speed to really just be able to win vertically just off the line of scrimmage. Okay, I can just go and run right by you, right? And catch. We saw him do that against Stingley, who's probably going to be the top corner taken next year. So, and then he has the ability to, well, if I don't just run right by you, he's terrific at the catch point. So he's a great contested catch guy. I think that's something I really kind of gets overlooked because he's not like just a big guy, right?
Right.
But he's amazing with positioning his body and going up and plucking the ball out the air. And then when you just talk about, now I'm just working from deep and I'm coming down a little bit. So, and then you start to look at his game, in intermediate, we'll say 10 to 20 yard range. Terrific route runner in that range. Mm-hmm. Easy target for quarterbacks, creates a ton of separation. He's this really fluid guy off of the line of scrimmage. He's really good run after catch. His routes at every level are terrific. He's a guy that you can just work to get the ball in his hands in different type of ways. So like not necessarily like a gadget guy, but any type of way you want to get the ball in his hands, you're able to do it. Again, so that's all the things. Like if you're watching film and you want this type of player, right? It's just like, I want a guy who is great contested catch, great red zone, vertical threat, creates a ton of separation, tough, great hands, all those type of things. Like if that's what you want, then he's your guy because he does that more consistently and better than anybody in this class. Now, obviously you want to, people want to factor in the weight. And my thing is with the weight, obviously like, maybe it's an issue, but show me where it ever was an issue, right? And show me how his lack of weight caused more issues for him than maybe somebody else that is bigger, So just if I had to kind of go all in on one of those three guys, it would be Devontae Smith just because of the way he wins consistently from every level, at every level, and every spot. You want to line him up at X, Z, slot, wherever. Motion him, do all different things with him, does all those things. So that would be my guy for fantasy. Now going into kind of the other guys, and I'll go to Jamar Chase because he's like the polarizing one.
Yeah,
he gets this generational tag, and I'm not sure why. Like I don't want to say I'm not sure why. He had a historically great season. And did it in the SEC against terrific competition. So from that standpoint, if you just look at that and you look at the way he wins, right? It's like, wow, he's winning vertically, he's winning with contested catch. He's winning with physicality. Look at these plays where he's just bullying guys, and you look at all those things, and it's like, okay, like these things check out, like this is great. But I think what people are missing, and one thing that was like really interesting to me is Jamar Chase is one of the few prospects, if maybe the only prospect that I've seen, he wins the same way he loses. So we all notice when he's, maybe playing bully ball at the catch point and does those things, and he's terrific at doing that. But there are a ton of reps when you watch all 22 and you're able to watch him away from the ball, things that don't show up on highlights, things that don't show up just when watching YouTube. You'll see there's a lot of times where he's just blanket. He's just like, it's like somebody just has a blanket over him and he just can't get open.
He can't separate.
Yeah, so he struggles with separation. Now, I try to ask myself with everything, right? I mean, I'm a 49er fan. They just drafted Trey Lance, right? And you look at him and most people be like, well, he's raw. And my thing is always, well, what has he shown that he has the ability to do? And is his issue is that I just need to become more consistent? Because if that's the case, then you can teach it, right?
Right.
So I look at what can you teach? What can't you teach? And with Jamar Chase, I know I can work on his releases because everything is just bully ball every single time. I'm like, man, like, when you get to the NFL and you have to go up against Jalen Ramsey all game and you want to try to bully the bully like that, that's not going to be consistent with being able to win that way. So can you add some nuance to your game? Can you add some, some twitch, some suddenness? Those are things where I think he has it because I feel like I've seen a little bit of it in reps, but I just thought more times than not, it was something that really kind of came off as this is a real area where he needs to improve. I know a lot of people overlook it because he was so productive and in the way he wins, it's sexy. I like it. But I also can't turn an eye to all the ways that he lost as well. And you don't see those things from Devontae Smith. I think if guys got their hands on Devontae Smith as much as they got their hands on Chase, people would have look, see, he's too skinny. Like, that's why. But with Chase, because you see him win that way, they don't question it when there's a ton of reps of him actually losing that same way. So that's Jamar Chase and kind of like how I look at him. I definitely think there's really a high upside if he can just work on being a little bit more nuanced, a little craftier at the line of scrimmage, a little bit craftier at the top of routes, a little bit more set in this. I think now you're talking about more of what people think about him in his head, that generational guy. At that point, I could see it. And then there's Waddle, who's like the freakiest of them all. And, he's interesting because he has this unique ability to just he's twitchy. He's a jitterbug. A lot of times when you see guys who can catch the ball, from a standstill and then explode past everybody and score, a lot of times they're more like longer striders, right? So he's somebody who's probably he would have ran like 4.2. And I think everybody wants to compare him. Well, Henry Ruggs ran 4.2, and Henry Ruggs was more of a long strider. Excuse me.
Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle is more of a twitched up guy. So again, I hate saying this because I never want to compare anybody to this guy. But if there is one guy that is close to becoming what we see from Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle. He has that type of ability of it's really this nice twitch, suddenness, explosiveness, pure speed to run by guys, puts guys in a panic. He does a terrific job at the catch point. I think that's really probably an underrated part of his game because everybody wants to just go to, he's just so fast. He's so fast. And it's like, man, but watch when the ball's in the air, like watch how he attacks it. Watch how he doesn't care about his body. Look at how well he tracks the ball in. I think his hands, just from a pure hand standpoint, can become a little bit more consistent. And then if there's one thing where I'm like, okay, it's not a negative, but it's one area where I'm like, he can improve on this. It's his, he tries to win every single rep at the line of scrimmage with speed. So he never tries to work to move the cornerbacks. And typically guys who are smaller like him, I mean, he's like 5'10", 180 pounds. Typically when you have a guy like that, they're quick, they're fast, Devontae Smith twitched up, right? Good fluidness at the line of scrimmage. Those guys are really hard to press. And everybody wants to get hands on the smaller guys. They're the hardest ones to press, especially if you're a bigger corner. Well, Waddle kind of hurts himself because everything is just speed. Like he just wants to outrun everything. And it's like, dude, slow down, take your time, move the defensive back, and then explode by him. So once he kind of gets that down, I think we're going to see an even better version of Waddle than what we saw from him in college. And he also has to prove that he can, consistently be an outside threat if they use him that way. I mean, he's on Miami, and they got these big dogs on the outside. Maybe they don't, Preston Williams and Parker, and maybe they don't want to use him. And then Fuller.
Yeah, Fuller just got signed.
On the outside, and he's just a pure slot, which is, definitely a benefit for them because of his unique ability to, create separation the way he does. But, it just would be nice to see like, hey, okay, great in the slot. Can I get outside, that outside ability from you as well? I would like to see a little bit more consistency with that. But overall, that's kind of like my overview of those three guys.
I love it, man. I love it. And no, I'm a big Devonta Smith guy as well. And you mentioned specifically his release off the line. And that was one of the things that I thought was most special about him, because, you know, that is one area that you could potentially see weight be an issue. And it was never an issue. Like, he got off the line smoothly almost every time. Like, there were very, very few reps that he was ever jammed at all at the line of scrimmage. So he varied his step patterns, and like he just looked so good off the line.
So what you're seeing, and what people don't really understand, your alignment is press technique, right?
Mm-hmm.
So press technique, that's an alignment. Jamming is a technique. So so press is just, I'm lined up at the line of scrimmage.
Right, but often you're going to bail too.
Right, and then so jamming is like the technique of getting hands on. When it comes to like the shiftier, quicker guys who typically are smaller, they are the hardest ones to get hands on at the line of scrimmage. Because a lot of times what happens is, when you shoot your hands, and you'll hear me say a lot, and you'll hear other DB guys say a lot, feet before hands. If you try to overpower a guy because, well, he's 166 pounds, let me just overpower him at the line of scrimmage. But what's going to happen is, when you go to shoot your hands, you're going to stop your feet. If you stop your feet, you lock your hips. And that makes it really tough to be able to turn and run. And it almost ends up putting you in a state of panic. So if you go to shoot your hands to be really physical at the line of scrimmage with them, you better get them, because if you don't, your whole rep is going to go to crap, especially when you have a receiver like him who is good with every other aspect of his game. So yeah, I'd rather guard Jamar Chase, because I know I'm going to get hands on. I'm going to be able to be physical with him. Now it's just, all right, Eric, you can't let him, bully you at the catch point. Like, that's the thing you have to worry about with him. But at least I'm going to be in position to make a play. Now I just have to make the play. And he's elite at making the play at the catch point. But, DB is like, man, like, I'm going to bet on myself, right? Like, that's how you have that type of mindset.
Right.
But you at least know, I'm going to be in position to make this play. Now I just have to make the play. But when it comes to Devonta Smith, you never know, because he is so fluid. He is so quick. He is so good off the line of scrimmage. And then he's so deceptive with his routes, with being able to sail the vertical route and sit down routes. And what he did to Stingley, what he did to JC Horn, like what he did to really every corner that he played against, and how you see, it doesn't matter how physical you are, he's going to put you in this state of panic. And that's tough to see that for an entire game. So that's just kind of just my mindset on the bigger guy versus smaller guy at the line of scrimmage. Again, you also have to figure out, well, how does this guy win? Maybe they win with physicality, but you got to give me a little bit more, especially if you're Jamar Chase and you're only 6 feet tall. You're not like a big guy.
6'4", yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So let's touch on some guys that went a little bit later. We had guys like Bateman and Tony go towards the end of the first round. We had a bunch of interesting day 2 guys. Of those, like, day 2, and let's lump Bateman and Tony in there. Tell me a little bit about your feelings about some of those guys, and which one of those guys you're like, you know what, I see this in their game and I like it.
Terrace Marshall. I mean, going to the Panthers, probably the best thing for him. I feel like
back up with Joe Brady.
He's back with Joe Brady, and I feel like that's an offense where they're going to really utilize like what he really could do. Like, I like him a lot. We're talking about somebody that's 6'3", 205 pounds. He's an extremely fluid mover. He's not like this taller, stiff guy. Like, if you compare him to like Denzel Mims, who came out last year. Mims was really stiff, really long-legged, so stiff, like it was like his knees barely bent. But when you look at Marshall, extremely fluid. He can win at any spot. So whether you want him outside, whether you want him in the slot, he's really a do-it-all receiver. I think he runs really good routes underneath and does a great job of like running routes with pace, being able to kind of understand where to free himself up and settle down. He does a really good job of like shielding the ball away from his defenders by using his body and using his hands over the middle. But then he also gives you the vertical aspect of his game from all areas, whether it's outside, whether it's inside, whether he's in a slot and he's just running past 2 high safety and splitting guys, whether he's on the outside and being able to win vertically. And then also how physical he is at the catch point. He's somebody, I had him at wide receiver 3. I really like Terrace Marshall a lot.
Oh, yeah, you do.
And
so which one of the big 3 did you have him over then?
Who's your Waddle.
Waddle, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. So just because I see right now, like, speed guy, and not to just put Waddle into like just being a speed guy And I
Right.
think he's going to do terrific at Miami. And I think sometimes when people hear this, then it makes it seem like you don't like this guy. And I was like, no,
No,
I
it's
like
a
all
good
these guys.
class. It's a really good receiver
Yeah,
class.
I like all these guys. But a lot of times with the quote unquote speed guys, there is that transition of understanding how to like play with controlled speed, how to utilize your control speed at a high end to be able to sell routes more. And a lot of the speed guys struggle with that, especially guys that are a little bit more, stridey, which he's not. So I think he's going to be fine, but I just have to see a little bit more of it. Where with Terrace Marshall is like extremely productive, obviously, like, had to share the rock with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and he was still 13 touchdowns. Then he was extremely productive catching passes from a quarterback that just got in the transfer portal, and whoever the hell else LSU had playing quarterback, and he didn't skip a beat. And then it's like, well, 10 touchdowns in 7 games. He eventually opted out, but his film was so good because I really thought this year, most people probably didn't really watch a whole lot of LSU, but they did a really good job of utilizing him everywhere. He didn't line up in just one spot. It was like he might be on the left side, he might be on the right side, he might be in a slot, he's running routes from all over, and they were really utilizing him as a true wide receiver one, and it was some great stuff to see. So that's kind of my outlook on him. But as far as other, I thought especially from a fantasy standpoint, Tony, that was an interesting one to me because you go to a team, you just pay Kenny Galladay a bunch of money. You have Slayton, who's another legit outside guy.
Yeah.
And then in the slot, they have Sterling Shepard. Now we'll see. Obviously, they know something that we don't, right? Like maybe they're planning on moving on from Sterling Shepard, or maybe his health or whatever the case is. But when I look at Tony and where he was drafted, I would like him more in the range of like Rondale Moore and those guys. Elijah Moore, like that second round type guy, where it's like, okay, you're more of a slot. And yeah, we could do things with you and stuff, but I wouldn't pour as many resources into somebody who's probably going to be my third target, maybe even fourth, because I got Evan Ingram. So it was interesting to see where he went and where they took him. And after trading up and getting draft capital, I just thought that was probably one of the more questionable picks, in my opinion, in all of the first round.
No, that makes sense. And I think a lot of people were with you on that one. It was, Tony definitely has some really cool abilities, and he can make guys miss. But for a guy that wasn't able to produce until his senior year, and even there were some questionable things. I saw a lot of double catching from him. I saw there were times you were talking about speed guys. There were times where it looked like he got out of control. He was out of control when he was running. You saw him tripping himself at times because his feet were moving faster than his mind was able to process it. Yeah. So he was interesting. There's a high ceiling, but there's also a very low floor.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know what he is, right? It's like I know he's a solid slot.
Right.
And I know he can run routes from there well. But when you really just watch the film, I thought there was a little bit more, I don't want to say inconsistency, because like all of a sudden he'd make a big play. And it's like, damn, not too many people can do that.
Yeah.
But then there's also like a lot of plays where it's like, man, I wish you would run this route a little bit harder, or, play a little bit faster here. And then he do something that's great. And it's like, wow, like that was really good open field, like where you move the guy. And then there's just a lot of inconsistent where it's like, well, you're not getting open. Guys are just, and you're not really a vertical threat like that. So those are things where I would like to see exactly how they're going to utilize him. But it was just an odd value, I would say, based on who they have at receiver already, all the weapons, and then you drafting him in the first round where you have a quarterback that's, maybe you should get him an offensive lineman. Like, like that just,
right.
That's just how I kind of saw that.
No, I'm with you. All right. So a guy that I had a really high grade on, and I want to hear your perspective because, I played linebacker, so it's not the same as playing corner at all. But watching his tape, I came away really impressed, very technically sound, pretty physically gifted as well, comes from a good lineage. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I really liked his tape. And then he fell to the 4th round, which I was a little surprised about, especially because there were some guys in the 2nd or 3rd round that I thought were just fine. Tell me what you saw with Amon-Ra. Did I miss something, or is the NFL just sleeping?
I think a lot of times with guys like him, it's when you when you aren't big and then you don't run fast, like they'll knock you. So
Yeah.
sometimes a guy like him who played very well, was productive. I mean, we all saw the game. I know I was watching live when he scored 4 touchdowns in the first quarter, 4 catches. And he has that type of ability to be able to win on the outside, win in the slot. I think teams just, for somebody who's not like overly big, they probably just would have liked to see him run a little bit faster, especially at a time where he ran in the 4.5s and everybody's flying 4.3s because
4.3s, yeah.
Pro days and stuff. So I was like, damn, like if he's running, 4.5s hand time, like what is he laser? Like, is he a 4.6 guy? Is he going to be, strictly in the slot? So I think that might be something maybe some teams are a little bit worried about, just the athletic part of it, which, I mean, where he's coming from, like you talked about lineage. I mean, who his dad is, obviously his brother's super tall and athletic. Yep. But, I think really what hurt him most was just not testing extremely well. But it was weird. His brother, I thought his brother would go higher too. And his brother, we're talking about somebody who's 6'4" and ran like in the, 4.4s at the combine. And then he went late. And I don't know.
Yeah. Amon-Ra he always seemed in control. Like his release off the line, the top of his routes, the way he was able to stem. Like there was just a lot of things that I saw that I was like, man, this guy just seems like a much more polished player than some of these other guys. And I don't know, maybe that to some teams are like, well, if that's all the better is right now and he's polished, what upside is there? I don't know. But I think that was a great value for the Detroit Lions, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Who else do they have at receiver? So, I mean, when you start talking about fantasy football, that's one of the guys who I kind of hope that kind of falls a little bit. And that's somebody who I would definitely take, because who's he? TJ Hawkinson? Like, is that it? Like, I don't even know what other – I literally
the receivers.
Don't know the receivers.
Here's the receivers. You ready for this? It's embarrassing. Quintez Cephas, Tyrell Williams, and Brashad Perriman. Those are their top 3 receivers.
Yeah. See, that's not. I think there's an opportunity there for him to kind of really insert himself and find out what his role is going to be. He's more talented than Cephas. So it's just, now it's like, all right, come in here, carve out your role, and be that hog, that target hog, which he really was at, USC.
Yep, absolutely. All right, give us one name outside. We already talked about Amon-Ra, obviously. Give us one name. This is my last question. I'll get you out of here. That of a receiver that you saw that went late, but you're like, you know what? I know he went late, or maybe even undrafted, but this is a guy that I could see them blossoming. We have this happen from time to time. Antonio Brown, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen went undrafted. Like, we see this happen from time to time. Is there anybody on day 3 or in the undrafted range that you're like, this could work?
Yeah. Where did Dyami Brown go? I know he went to Washington. Where
he went 3rd round.
All right. So if he's included in this,
sure. Why not?
He was someone who I'm really high on.
Okay.
I think the issue with Dyami Brown and his film is what he was kind of asked to do at North Carolina. It was that
much of the same
Metcalf, offense where, it's the same. So their offensive coordinator is the same one from Ole Miss when DK Metcalf and those guys were.
Okay. I actually didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't know either until I tweeted out like, man, this guy's suffering from only running certain routes like DK Metcalf did. And then I got a bunch of responses like, it's the same offensive coordinator. And I'm like, okay, makes sense. Where he's just running go routes, stop routes, occasional out, occasional dig or something. But there's just not much to it. But the more I watched him and I started having to piece things together, and I noticed like he's literally everything that you want. He's very nuanced from the standpoint of understanding how to win vertically, whether he wins with speed or he has these little nuances that he does, using half steps. A half step is something where, you're taking off and you take essentially like a half a step and you go again. But by the time the corner responds to the half step, you're already taking off. We saw him do that against Virginia. I saw him be able to win at the catch point vertically. Again, somebody who I thought was very fluid, not this stiff guy, but very fluid at the line of scrimmage. Nice moves, nice feet, good job of selling go routes, sitting routes down, good run after catch. He was somebody who played big, and watching him, I'm like, damn, like this looks a lot like Devontae Adams. Like that was just kind of how it looked to me. And like the type of ability I think that he has. So I think he too went to a perfect situation where he can kind of carve out his role as that wide receiver 2 on that squad, you know. And I mean, they have a couple of other guys there, but I don't think there should be anybody that's able to really hold him off once he really, you know, gets grasp for the offense. So I'm interested to see like kind of where he goes with everything. I liked him a lot, and but I knew that people were really going to kind of miss on a lot of him, because if you don't really pay attention to all the little things he does, the way he's able to attack leverages vertically and get guys to speed turn and all these little things, you're just going to be like, well, he's not a route runner, or he's not overly big, or, you know, you just might say those things. So I had to really dig deep when watching him and breaking him down, but I came away extremely impressed.
All right, I said that was the last question, but I lied. There's one more question. You know, because I'm like, you're a Niners guy, right? You're a Niners guy. You cover the Niners. One of my deep dart throws, and he ended up actually with a great tape score for me. I'm really excited about him, but I was shocked because he went undrafted. Talk about Austin Watkins for a second. I don't know how much you've gotten to watch him play or not, but anything that spikes your interest with him there on the 49ers?
So I haven't gotten a chance to watch him just yet. I'm pretty sure I'll get to him this weekend, but I have seen. It
might be on my end. For some reason I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now I can hear you. I don't know. We'll cut that out. But
all right. Oh, do you want to ask the question again, or how you want to do it?
You can just start talking about him. I think it should be good.
Okay. All right. So, you know, Watkins, he's somebody who is intriguing to me. I haven't watched him just yet. I'm pretty sure I'll watch him like this weekend. Okay. But he, I've seen a bunch of clips on him, like on social media. There's some guys, that are kind of involved in like 49ers media to some extent.
Yeah.
And, you know, they went to the Senior Bowl. They really liked him. They got him on a pod. They were posting clips of him prior to the draft and was saying that he's somebody that they really like. So I've seen clips of him. I've seen there was one time he hit this guy from the Senior Bowl with a rocker step. And I was like, wow, he did that without like losing any type of speed. And it looked smooth. It looked quick, you know, and he was somebody that kind of looked like a little bit like Brian Edwards a little bit to me, who I really liked Brian Edwards last year. You know, he's physical and able to win at the catch point, but I can't wait to like really watch more of him to kind of develop my own opinion.
Yeah. All right. Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter when you get to him, because I did. That was where I fell in love with him, was at the Senior Bowl, watching him play, because we had a bunch of undersized guys there, you know, the Shi Smiths and the Tutu Atwells and a lot of guys like that. And there weren't many like prototypical X size wide receivers there. But the ones that were, and not to knock anybody, all these guys are fantastic athletes. But, you know, I was watching Travion Grimes and Racey McMath and some of the bigger guys, and I was kind of underwhelmed watching them do the cones. You know, their hips weren't very loose. They weren't able to get down. And then I watched Austin Watkins, and I was like, ooh, okay, I see it. Like, so there were a lot of things that I saw. Then I watched him a little bit on tape as well. And even games against like Miami, like they played the University of Miami, and he had a really good game. The quarterback had a hard time getting on the ball just because he wasn't very good, but watching him even play against upper competition, I was impressed. So he's staying on my radar for now. I'm excited to hear what you think when you finally get a chance to see.
He's someone that may really get an opportunity. You look at the 49ers receiver group right now. They've had Kendrick Bourne for the last few years kind of be that guy that kind of fills in as that like move the chains guy, you know, red zone guy. And now Kendrick Bourne is gone. You know, he went off to the Patriots. So it's like you have Brandon Ayuk, you have Deebo Samuel, and obviously George Kittle. But then it's like, well, who's the third receiver?
Right.
And who's that guy? Who's the Kendrick Bourne of this group? Like, who's that going to be? So you look at some of the guys they've drafted in the last few years. Jalen Hurd, he missed consecutive seasons with injuries, a back and then the torn ACL. Juwan Jennings, he like tore his hamstring off the bone last year, so he didn't play. And even then, he was a 7th round pick, and he was like slow. So it's like, you know, there's Richie James, but he's been like on the team this whole time, and it's like every once in a while he'll get a shot and he'll be productive, but they don't really vibe with him for whatever the reasons are. You know, just the politics of the NFL. So you look at somebody like Austin Watkins, and coming to the 49ers, who did not draft a receiver when everybody thought they would, he really gets a legit opportunity to compete with some of these other guys that haven't really made their impact on the roster at all. So if he comes in and he's making more plays than Jalen Hurd, making more plays than Juwan Jennings, and that's even if they're able to go right away because they are coming off injuries, then there's a chance that he not only makes his squad, but starts to kind of carve out his own little role. And one thing about the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, he's not shy about giving the guy that role if he earns it. And it's not going to be because, obviously if you draft a guy, you're going to get more opportunities. But we've seen Trent Taylor as a rookie, undersized guy coming from Louisiana Tech. He was like a 5th round pick. He came in, have 40 plus catches as a rookie. You look at Dante Pettis, obviously he was a 2nd round pick, but he had like a string of, 400 yards receiving over his last 6 games, his rookie year. You look at, Kendrick Bourne, he was successful when given the opportunities. Just everybody's able to kind of come in, and once he kind of gives you that role, these guys, they've been productive. So if he can beat out some of these guys, there's something there. I know you like him. If he's who you say he is, then there's a legit chance he makes this team over some guys who I think they just wanted to see what they look like. It's like, man, we invested a 3rd round pick in Jalen Hurd. We just can't let him go. But we don't even know if he'll ever play.
Man, you're giving me hope. You're giving me hope. It's a dangerous thing. Well, Eric, I appreciate it so much taking the time out from your family to hop on with me here, talk a little bit of football. Anything else you want to tell the folks where they can find you on Twitter, anything like that?
Yeah, guys can find me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. And then also make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, Croc Talk TV. That I'm really starting to kind of get that going and really picking that up. So I'm excited about where that can go. So make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Awesome, Eric. Well, you have a great day, and we'll talk at you later, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.